dear friend of mine asked if I could ask you this question, and that is, what realm do you come from? And he's listed a few of them here.
None that he would know
Should I?
or be satisfied with.
He's had astral, archangel, angel, spirits of form.
Whatever he considers to be the best one.
He does have supreme being here.
We'll take that one.
I thought you might.
It's fair for him to ask those questions because what he's wanting to do is put us in the context of what he understands. And man has been doing that with that which is non-physical from the beginning of your physicalness. In other words, you cannot see other than through the eyes that you have, through the perspective that you have. So you have to find some way of making sense of it. That's what Esther is doing all day, every day, as she allows us to flow through. We're not whispering words that she's repeating. We're offering our knowing, which she is receiving vibrationally, and then she's looking for the physical word equivalent. And so there are many physical beings that want us to describe where we come from because you are currently focused in a time-space reality. But that implies that we also, from our non-physical perspective, are focused in a time-space reality. And we are not. We are in a timeless, spaceless reality. And so we could conjure something, we could make something up for the purpose of making him feel better, but there is no point in it because it causes the continuation of the distortion of trying to get energy to be from some place, you see. It is only human that tries to put the hierarchy on things. So, tell your friend that Abraham explained who they are in this way. We are the vibrational essence that equals the culmination of all that has been lived, both physically and non-physically. We are an energy that is expanding consciously and constantly because of the willingness of physical experience and its contribution to the never-ending want or desire. We are the expanded version of who each of you are, and we are the pure essence of that expanded version. We hold not any of the concerns that you hold, but we have benefited from the concerns that you have lived. We are not stumped by your questions, but we ride on the stream of your answers. We are not bothered by your problems because your problems have inspired the expansion or solution. We are as broad or as deep as the question that you ask, because law of attraction will not match you up with the part of us that is different than the part of you. We can only be as wise as your wisdom, as loving as your love, and as smart as your brilliance. We cannot be more than you allow us to be. So when you find something in us that you deem worthy or wonderful or beneficial, you must understand that it is a pure reflection of who you are, because you could not get it from us if you were not it also. We have enjoyed this interaction immensely. There is great love here for you. And as always, we remain eternally incomplete. Because of the thought that was in my mind when I first sat to meditate, I saw them as like a dead person that was really smart. And as time has gone on, I'm realizing that they are infinite intelligence and that they are as broad or as deep as the question that is being asked. So they no longer feel like a person to me, you know, like you talk to your dead father or someone. They feel like infinite intelligence, although they have very specific personality. I feel their love and their humor, you know, their appreciation of every person that they interact with. Their intelligence, that's probably the best word I would use to describe them.
The stage I've reached, and I can't seem to, I don't see no reason to get past it, I guess. I remember once when I finally discovered the word ineffable. And what the word ineffable means is there's no words for it. And I had, even before this, I had come to the decision that the closer I got to understanding what all that is out there, the less words there would be for it. It's like I don't try to understand about how the electricity was created to make all this go around here, the lights and the sound and so on and so forth. I just know I just have to flip a switch, and I trust that the switch will turn the light on. And to me, our work with Abraham is like that. I've lived enough life, had enough experiences before Abraham and with Abraham to feel really, really good about the power of what they're teaching and the value to the individual. Life was really, really good before Abraham. We were very healthy. We had a wonderful relationship. We had a wonderful income. We had a wonderful career, business. I tried fulfilling work to do. Something was really rewarding. Something that I just absolutely loved. I thought I would never, ever, ever stop it. I always said if I never made a penny out of it, I'd keep doing it. I loved it so much. But still have all of that, plus all of that. But on the other hand, I now understand life. The big questions are answered. In other words, I understand the purpose of life is joy. Whereas before, I thought joy was kind of like, maybe we shouldn't get too joyous. Maybe we should suffer a little more. Maybe there should be more pain involved. Maybe there's something wrong with me wanting everyone around me to be happy. Maybe there's something wrong with me wanting everyone to enjoy their lives. Maybe that's not the plan. And now I understand that is the plan. That's the ultimate goal in life, our purpose for being here, is to achieve joy. You can use the word joy, but Abraham says in the terms of to feel good. They say that everything that any of us ever do or ever want is for one reason and only. And we may look at those things that other people want as something horrible, but they only want it so they'll feel better. And so that's the ultimate goal for every one of us, is just to feel better, more better. I understand that now. I never understood that.
I don't, so many things that I didn't understand about things that were happening to other people or even to myself, now they're not mysterious anymore. Now, understanding what Abraham has taught us, now you can look at any situation and at least understand that it is changeable and why it's happening in the way that it is. So, that's the biggest thing for me. And I'm not afraid of dying anymore. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid that I've done something inappropriate that's going to cause me to be punished. I'm not worried that I wasn't part of the right organization and I didn't learn the right rules, or didn't follow the rules that I learned. So I feel free.
I've learned also how to back out of any situation psychologically or mentally or however you want to put it fast, and so nothing gets up ahead of steam that causes any problems in my life. Often in the past I would let things get too far and then it's too hard to deal with, whereas before, with what Abraham's teaching us about listening to our emotions, I can catch something that just barely gets off the ground before I change my process of thought and start focusing on something differently, and which then stops that creation of what was beginning to develop. I can see a headache pull back. I can see a little physical thing change just really fast in my life. I can see a relationship issue that would have developed years ago that I just instantly, by just gently changing the thought, to change that whole thing around.
So we're sure and happier still and more prosperous and we feel freer.
And I'm extremely fulfilled.
We'd like to ask Abraham to come and speak to us.
Okay. It just takes a few seconds. I won't move on. It is nice to have an opportunity to visit.
Well, I have some questions for you, and the first question I want to ask is, how can we believe this? How can we believe that one person can close their eyes and concentrate, and suddenly there's someone else there? Help me with that.
Well, we would rather that you believed something even more than that, and that is that not just one person can do that, but all persons can and do. You are all extensions of source energy. And so you could never separate yourself from the stream of consciousness that is really you. It is just that many of you have formed such barricades or separation. You see yourself so separately. And when you release those barriers and allow who you really are to begin flowing, that's when your life really becomes fun. You cannot separate yourself from that which you really are. Esther cannot separate herself from that which is Abraham.
Who and what is Abraham?
The words are tricky because from your physical format you are accustomed to seeing things from your physical point of view. But we are non-physical consciousness. We are source energy. We are vibration. We are thought. We are not so different from you. You are an extension of that which we are. Everything that is physical is an extension of that which is source, you see. And so we are just a purer form of the energy that is actually you, meaning we do not have thoughts of resistance that keep us from being that which is a vibrational match to source, while in your physical form, sometimes you do.
Have you ever been human?
Well, the question has a misunderstanding at its basis that we want to clarify first, and that is to say that everything that is physical is an extension of that which is non-physical. Physical friends often look at life from their physical format and they think, well, it's either dead or alive, so it's either physical or non-physical, when in reality it is always non-physical, and sometimes that non-physical focus is focused into the physical. So the question, have you ever been physical, implies that we are not, right now, physical, while Esther and Jerry and you and so many others are the physical extension of that which we are. It's sort of like saying to your toaster, why don't you be the electrical current also? And the toaster says, I'm the toaster, the electrical current will be the electrical current. And we're wanting you to understand that source energy will always be source energy. But source energy expresses itself in physical form all around you.
Why the name Abraham?
The process that Esther uses to interpret for us is a process where she receives blocks of thought, sort of like downloading to a computer, if you will, like radio signals. And Esther receives the block of thought at an unconscious level and then finds, also at an unconscious level, the physical word equivalent. So even the label Abraham was a label that Esther fashioned at an unconscious level because it was the best descriptive word that explained easily in one label, like you want your names to be, that which we are. In other words, we are at the heart of every religion that exists. We've been around for a very long time, and so it was just the best name. It also puts us first in the phone book.
is a bit out there for some.
Not in this group.
Oh, good. So I've read a book about mermaids, and I was just wondering if mermaids are real, or if they've existed, or if they're just beautiful fairy tales, and same with unicorns. Okay.
This is what happens when you're too happy all the time.
Okay.
We're in the deep, deep archives. Wait a little bit here. The most important thing to understand is that when we say, if you have the ability to imagine it, then you have the ability to manifest it fully. And so there are a lot of things that have flowed into the consciousness of humans and been translated by humans into a form of reality. But what you want to call reality, what most of you want to call reality, is the sort of thing where nobody questions its existence. In other words, if a unicorn came romping through those doors and up on the stage, most of you would want to examine it closely. In other words, because it isn't part of your reality, meaning that it's not the human consciousness that is living on the planet has not reached a state of expectation to allow that to show itself in that full manifested form. And yet, the evolution of all species, the evolution of all things, but let's talk about the evolution of all species, really is about life causing you to hold a desire and then finding a way not to resist it until it becomes part of your evolution. There have been so many physical beings who have participated in your time-space reality. And there are those who are able to travel interdimensionally. In other words, your imagination is a very powerful thing. Your imagination is not necessarily a departure from reality. The reason that we were not just willing but eager to talk with you about this is because we or no one has any business proclaiming anything that is in your consciousness as not real. And in the moment that you decide that you don't need everybody else or anybody else to agree with you about its existence, then it can show itself to you. That really is the conversation that we're having here all day, every day. There are a lot of people that have a hard time thriving in a bad economy, but there are those who thrive most in a bad economy. There are those who have a hard time thriving when there is a physical epidemic, and yet there are those who thrive even amidst epidemics. You are individual creators of your individual realities, but most of you have become so integrated in what's going on around you, and more important, so interested in getting others' agreement about what you think. This is the thing that will trip you up more than all other things. In other words, life shows you a pattern, and then you say, oh yes, this is something I know, but you don't seem to know what I know, and so I'm going to give my every effort to get you to see this like I see this. And we say, give it up. Let them see the unicorns. Let them see whatever it is that they want to see, while you see whatever it is that you want to see. Will there be a time that you will see unicorns romping down your street? It is unlikely. Esther has a friend who lives in Australia, and the first time she was in his car, they were driving, and he said, yes, I had another friend in the car, a few of them, Esther knew all of them, and we were driving down this very street, and they said, Leon, where are all the kangaroos? And he said, kangaroos don't just go hopping down the street. And then one did. manifestation is everything. There are a lot of writers who get into a creative mode where they begin to receive thoughts, and those thoughts are manifestations. And if there is anything that we would like you to hear in this room today, and this very example is going to be a tripping point for some of you because we want you to let her have her unicorn. We want you to let yourself have them. And just because something hasn't manifested doesn't mean that it can't. You are not miles away from what you want, and you are not years or hours or months or weeks or days away from what you want. You're only vibrations away from what you want. So you have the ability to find a way of focusing that allows. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would not try to stretch the biological boundaries of this time-space reality. We would not say, all right, prove it to me, I could use 2 more arms. We would start with things that are easy. We would start with things that are easy until we had convinced ourselves that if I have the ability to imagine it, then I have the ability to have a relationship with it, you say. Not as satisfying as some would like. We will not say that they are not real, because our work all day, every day, is to get you to accept this vortex that you cannot see. And who knows what's in there? Everything that you want is in there. It is your work to get into the receptive mode. And so, how far will those things that you have desired or imagined, imagination, that's pretty far down the momentum trail, isn't it? You want it. You've allowed yourself to imagine it. That's a thought that you are realizing. That's a thought that you are realizing. So what stops? What stops the momentum? What keeps the thought that you've imagined from manifesting all the way out? Thoughts that contradict it. Period. That's all that it is. Enough?
Yes, can I ask one more question? It's just about, a while back, I was taking a walk down a road, and some dogs came at me, and I asked God, I was like, help, and I picked up my little poodle, and a car came down the road, appeared practically out of nowhere, and it just pulled up. The guy got out and started throwing rocks at the dogs. He said, just throw rocks at them and they'll go away. And I'm like, okay. So I tried getting in his car because I wanted to be safe, and he wouldn't let me in, and he had a bunch of books and stuff in there, whatever. It was weird. And then, so he took off. He said he lived around that area, and he took off, and it looks like he disappeared. And I'm like, who? And then I never saw him again, and the rocks worked, and I went home. But I'm just wondering, who was that? And what?
It was a unicorn.
That's what I was thinking. It was my angel.
Whatever you, when you are in a strong place of desire, when your desire is really peaked, your beliefs, even if they are contradictory beliefs, often play a less vibrational role when your desire is very strong. And so, this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the day, when we were saying that wherever you are standing, the source who is standing there with you is aware of all things and is always advocating for your well-being. That you are. So, don't you think that it is logical that someone who wants and even does believe in unicorns could manifest a white knight in a messy car to help her with the situation? In other words, it's the way that it always works. And the fact that you have no long-term continuity, you didn't see where he came from and you didn't see where he went, which is the way you are with almost everything that you're interfacing with. It doesn't matter where it came from or where it goes. The only thing that ever matters is what you're rendezvousing with, and what you're rendezvousing with is everything about the vibration that you are holding, you see. We think that having your little dog there. Your little dog was part of the attraction of the other dogs. Your little dog was the thing that made you feel most protective. In other words, you were wanting to protect your dog even more than you were wanting to protect yourself. But in that very fast-moving moment, it's an indication that your vibration of well-being was stable. And when your vibration of well-being is stable, things materialize out of nowhere in order to assist you. It's just the way it always is. It's the way it always is. There are endless stories, and people have such a hard time. We like having this extreme, harder to accept kind of version because, in a way, everything that we're teaching you is a harder kind of thing to accept kind of version because we're asking you to work on your vibrational frequency in order to allow things to manifest. But that's because we know that everything comes out of nowhere. There is no reality the way you think there is a reality. Everything is a convergence of vibrational frequencies. And just because you as mass consciousness have adjusted yourself to a certain level of expectation and therefore allowance of what manifests into your experience doesn't mean that there's a whole lot more on the horizon. You're not years away from these discoveries. You're not miles away from these discoveries. You're vibrations away from these discoveries, and you've got emotions within you to let you know how near to them you are. If you would stop talking to others who will talk you out of your crazy wild dreams, if you will stop trying to fit in with the others and justify to them through your normalcy all kinds of what they will call magic that you will come to call normal will occur to you. It is normal that you thrive. It is normal that things always go well for you. It's normal that what you don't want stays away and that what you do want comes in. That's normal. And just because it's not what most people are demonstrating doesn't mean that it's not what's normal, you see. We're off to a really good start here today. We think this is a really good time for a segment of regression.
Welcome. I have two questions. One is a little more serious than the other.
Nothing serious going on here.
Good.
Ever.
I just would like your point of view on something. If you agree, we've all sort of existed before and always will exist.
Yes.
So this is a religious question. I would like to know why Jesus came if we always was and always will be.
Same reason you did. Same reason you all do. In other words, no one comes. What's in your mind? Why do you think? In other words, do you think that what could possibly be the reason that anyone would come other than that you are eternal beings and you've come for the creative experience?
So are you saying Christ came for the experience as well?
Of course. Of course, there are no exceptions.
It just seemed a sort of a dramatic way to help us out.
Well, it hasn't been that helpful, actually. More people die over the things that surround Christianity than all other things put together.
Correct.
So we know what you mean. Well, what do you mean? The helping out part.
Well, what I mean is, if we will always exist, why the intervention?
Well, first of all, there never is any intervention. Intervention sounds like assertion, and there is no assertion. There's only attraction. So what happens is you're taking a historical figure who has rightly earned the place of a religious figure, there are many who feel that it's blasphemy to call him anything other than the Son of God, and so we will. But we will not call Jesus the Son of God in any other context than that we put you in the same category. In other words, everyone who comes forth is an extension of source energy. And everyone comes forth to explore the contrast and to become. And his story is not different. In other words, he came, like all, did his part of banging around, put all kinds of things into his vortex, even though he wasn't calling it that in those days, separated himself from the trauma and the struggle, came into alignment with who he had become, and then stood in that vibration of greater knowing that he had carved out of this life experience, and then told the story of that. And others who were witnessing hardly anybody ever coming into alignment with who they are, then pronounced him unique and marvelous and king and God and saint and son of God, when what he was just a regular guy tuning into who he was and teaching through the clarity of his example that everyone else could do the same thing. And he said that every day that people would listen to him. That's the story that he told. He said, I am not that which you are not. He said, it's your faith that makes you whole. He said, come into the vortex, come into the light. He said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. In other words, everything that he said was about, I am an eternal being and so are you. And maybe there was some of, and I will show you the way. But not one time ever, and it's a distortion if you're hearing it today, did he ever say or mean to imply, I will come forth and do for you what I see you cannot do for yourself, because it defies all laws of the universe, and it cannot be.
Very good. I have one other question. It's on a humorous side.
And then humans take the part of his story when he was the most out of the vortex, when he was saying, why have you forsaken me? And that's the part of his life story that they dramatize the most.